Please do not make these mistakes, because when I tell y'all, I'm telling y'all this and I'm being honest and it's the truth. I know by experience, and not even just with me, with myself or my kids, but just other people as well. Okay, y'all. So basically, these are some tips about hair when it comes to your children's hair or just a little kid's hair in general. So what you want to be able to do is make sure you don't over manipulate a child's hair, because I mean, us adults shouldn't even be over manipulating our hair. So you definitely shouldn't do it with a child's hair that's, in the process of growing. Their hair isn't even fully grown out yet. Like, it's still in like the baby stages, if that makes sense. You don't want to over manipulate, and that means basically constantly touching their hair, styling their hair, constantly combing it, all of those things in that nature. You don't want to do that, because it can cause breakage. It can cause the hair to not grow as fast. It can cause their hair to fall out, or just whatever the case may be. You just don't want to do that too much, and especially braiding their hair too early. That's just too much manipulation at a young age. You don't want to braid their hair, definitely not too early, because that can cause a lot behind that as well. Okay, so my next tip is not braiding the kid's hair at a young age. You do not want to braid no kid hair too young. You can make the mistake of braiding their hair too tight, especially while they're that young. Or not even just that. I don't know if a lot of people know, but braiding a kid's hair too young of an age can actually change the course of their hair. And especially if they got like a certain curl pattern or whatever that you want them to keep, definitely don't braid the children's hair at too young of an age. And plaiting it and stuff, that's fine, but braiding it, to the scalp, that's what I'm talking about. And not even just with girls, boys too, but even when it comes to boys and cutting their hair, if you cut your son's hair at too early of an age, it'll change the texture of their hair. I know, because I did it. My mom did it with my brother. It really can change the texture completely. And also, getting an edge. When it comes to boys, do not get their edge done too frequent at too young of an age, because as they get older, that's when they start having a receding hairline. Please do not make these mistakes, because when I tell y'all, I'm telling y'all this and I'm being honest and it's the truth. I know by experience, and not even just with me, with myself or my kids, but just other people as well. You can do the research yourself, but just be careful when it comes to kids' hair. Another tip that I want to go ahead and tell y'all is, when you're detangling your kids' hair, make sure you wet the hair, especially when they're natural, like no perms, no nothing like that. Please make sure you're wetting the hair. That is a very important step in detangling hair, because if you don't wet the hair, like when you wet the hair, it helps you to be able to detangle the hair a lot easier. It's even better on the child, because it's easier to do it when it's wet. It's less of a hassle. You don't have to worry about ripping through the hair or the knots. So then there's less, crying and complaining when you're trying to detangle their hair. So make sure you wet the hair, because wetting the hair definitely does help a lot with the detangling process. It really does. But also when you're detangling the hair, make sure you're not ripping through those knots. If you're using a comb, when you feel a knot, put the comb down, use your finger to just like spread the knot out, and it'll like get that knot out. I wish I could show y'all, but yeah, like if there's a knot, you just want to do like this to it to get it out. Now, when I do my kids' hair, they can still, of course, complain when I'm detangling their hair, but I already know wetting it helps it a lot. But also what helps the detangling process a lot, it's not only just about wetting the hair when you're detangling it, but it's about keeping it moisturized throughout the week. I realize even with my own hair, with my kids' hair, if you keep your hair moisturized throughout the weeks before it's even time to detangle it, because you're about to comb it or style it, the detangling process is a lot easier because the hair isn't as dry and it's been getting that moisture that it needs, so that when you detangling, it just makes the process so much easier. So if your hair if you're already not moisturizing it the way you're supposed to, but you are wetting it, okay, cool. But I'm telling you, it makes a big difference if you're moisturizing it on top of keeping it wet when you're detangling it. It makes all the more difference. Another tip that I have is when you have in braids, when your kids have in braids, make sure you're still making sure the braids are moisturized, because I know some people tend to think that just because they have braids in their hair, then you don't have to make sure it's moisturized. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I make sure I keep a spray bottle, a leave-in conditioner spray bottle, because when they have in braids, all you have to do, of course, is get the bottle and go and just spray throughout their hair, but it's still getting moisture. It's still getting moisturized and it's still getting moisture, as well as a good oil that you can just rub through their hair, or even a spray bottle and put oil in it and spray it in their hair. You must still moisturize their hair even when it's in braids. Leave-in conditioners that you can buy that comes in a spray bottle, because I know I prefer to use those, because when you having a style, you don't want to mess it up by rubbing leave-in conditioner in your kids' hair, you know, because that can of course cause friction, which will cause frizz, or just mess up the hairstyle altogether. Even if it's just a hairstyle that's not even in braids, but you don't want to mess up the hair, a spray bottle leave-in conditioner is the best option, and I definitely recommend going with that. Another tip is, when it comes to babies or real young kids, try not to allow them to lay on their heads too much. But I know when they're real young, you really can't help that, because they're not sitting up or anything. And so my recommendation for that is buy some type of silk or satin cover, or yeah, I'll say silk or satin, some type of cover. Or even if you have a scarf that's silk or satin, you can like lay it out flat over their cover when they lay down, so then you don't have to worry about all of that friction in the back of their head happening, which will cause the hair to thin or fall out or whatever the case is. And then also, if you're dealing with that with your kids, you want to make sure you're moisturizing the hair daily, especially with like castor oil or something like that can help the hair grow. So my last tip is, do not allow a bunch of different people in your kids' hair. If you don't know how to do hair, or just like an everyday style or moisturize, something simple, please look it up. There's a bunch of videos and research that you can do on things like that, but try to keep it minimum to the amount of people that touches your kids' hair, whether it's you or in one other person or that you really trust, or whatever the case may be. You do not want to have too many people in your kids' hair, because as we know, that can be, it just can go bad. It really can, depending on who's doing their hair. Honestly, it really can. This is a bonus tip. You want to make sure that you buy satin and silk scarves and not cotton. because cotton scarves will dry your hair out. You want something that will help keep the moisture in. Like, what's the point of moisturizing your hair? Just put on a cotton scarf that's going to draw all that out. Like, it's kind of pointless to even moisturize your hair if you're going to turn around and wear a cotton scarf. Make sure you're putting on silk and satin scarves on your baby's hair. It is very, very important. Okay, y'all, so that's all that I have for y'all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you really learned something from these tips. Even if it was just a few things, I hope you learned something. I hope that y'all go ahead and implement these into your daily hair routines when it comes to your kids, because like I said again, these tips are very, very helpful. If you haven't already and you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that y'all can continue to come back to my channel, be notified when I post new videos. Even click the notification bell for me, y'all. And y'all who are subscribed but haven't clicked that notification bell next to the subscribe button, what you waiting for? Make sure you go ahead and do that. And then if you have anything that you want to comment, go ahead and please feel free to do so. But make sure you also share this video. It's very helpful and can be helpful to others. And I'll see y'all next time.